this way. Yes, I do have notes. I have to refer to it. Gray beard, gray hair, short memory. So, I think my better half and Don were colluding on this to get me up here to speak today about service. So, just real quick, what I said we were going to do is this is going to be a lighthearted autobiographical reflection. That means I get to tell a bunch of stories. And there are stories about all of this, so you'll get all of that. Why do we serve? How do we serve? What are the things that keep us from serving? And how do we resolve that? Now, I promised that Legos would be involved. And a good reason for that, because yesterday I spent the entire day out at Golden View Middle School with 40 teams from across the state of Alaska, all the way from Utqiagvik down to Juneau, up to Fairbanks, and all over the state, in the statewide Lego Championship. Oh yeah. And the throat's a little scratchy because that's what I was the MC at the event. So, if you would take this and pass it around,
Sure.
there are 6 bricks in there for each and every one of you. So just grab a 6-brick batch and pass it on. And what I found is if I give you guys something to mess around with, if I get to be a little boring, you have something to do. So
You are a fun guy.
hey, you know, you gotta go someplace and start off. But probably the first thing I need to do is give you a proper greeting and aloha. Part of my spiritual journey in the last several years has been very significantly connected with Hawaii. And so I figured it would be appropriate to have a little Hawaii artwork today. That is a wa'a, a canoe. And it's the canoe that we are all in our journey in life on. And every one of us does it just a little differently. There's another aspect of Hawaiian culture, and this is something that I learned through some reading. This is one of the books that I've read, Bowl of Light by Hank Wesselman, and it is his interaction with one of the famous kahunas of Hawaii, Ali Makua, and some of the lessons that he had to pass on. And then also this one, Shamanic Wheels and Keys, by Harley Swift-Deer Reagan. And that talks to some of the more indigenous aspects of spirituality. And then I've got one more, and there it is right there. It's on Kindle. And it is The Wise Secrets of Aloha. And so that's kind of where I'm drawing from for some of this today. But the first thing that I want to do is I need to make sure that we put this out. And this, in Hawaiian culture, is our bowl of light. And when we come into this world, when our spirit is given to us, we are all given a bowl of light. And where we go with that and what we do with that is kind of our path in life. And we'll be addressing some of that today. And maybe see, because that'll answer one of the questions that I said I was going to talk about. So service. What is the definition of service? Any takers? Who wants to define? And okay.
Your welfare, concern, and other people above yourself.
Okay. So service to others. Any other definitions of service?
A high school up on the hillside.
Yeah. Which I attended. Any other definitions of service?
Giving from the heart.
Giving from the heart. Okay. What do we do when we take our vehicles in for an oil change? Isn't that service?
Great.
Huh?
Repair.
Yeah. So vehicle maintenance, service. How many yeah,
Well, I think it's giving of your heart, because you're doing something to help better your surroundings when you give service.
Very
And
much
you
so.
usually do it without any monetary reward or an agenda, it's just from, that's how I give service, it's from my heart.
yes, thank you. Any?
This is a service.
Yes, it is.
Your heart playing is a
A-
service.
For, and this is not the right way to characterize this, but a religious service type of gathering.
And then the men and women who join the armed forces.
Yes,
Sharing
Serving
time,
your
space,
country.
and energy. Sharing time, space, and energy.
Giving up your angel wings to come to Earth to be a human, how's that?
all very different definitions of service, yes,
The fulfillment of a need.
yes. So, I'm just trying to keep track, because I can,
Oh, you know,
I'm
I'll
like,
stand up when you have about 10 minutes. So-
oh, okay.
Okay, that way you can lose yourself.
Yeah, this is gonna start sounding like an old Beatles song, you know? Magical Mystery Tour. But yes, all very good definitions of service, but the focus that we wanna have today, and this is what many of you hit on, was the fact that we are giving of ourselves to the service of others. And that's kind of what the focus is that I want to do. So in what I've read and what I've studied over time, there's a lot of different aspects of the spirituality involved. And one of them is our purposes. Now we've had discussions here before about purposes, and kind of what I've been exposed to is we have a higher purpose. And that purpose is to learn. What are we here to learn? We have a life purpose. What are we here to give? A soul purpose? What are the talents that we bring to the table to do that? And then our work purpose, how are we going to go about doing what we are here to do? So, my journey of service. When I was a young lad, many years ago, my folks owned a cabin out back off the Burma Road by Big Lake. Beautiful cabin. Beautiful cabin. It was built by one of the premier cabin builders of the time, a gentleman by the name of Johnny Parks. And it was a beautiful cabin. The problem was when Johnny put the lintels in for the door, this on Johnny was this on Dave. Yeah. But we would spend a lot of time out there, and one summer, right about the time that I was graduating from high school, I was out at the cabin doing summer chores, and I was up on the roof with a bucket of tar, patching all the nail holes to keep the roof from leaking all winter long. And while I was sitting up there, it dawned on me, being a young male at the time, back in the 70s, I guess I'm going to have to serve my country sometime. And okay, that light went on. The next question was, well, how do I go about doing that? And I went through the drill of how I go about doing that. And the solution set for that was, as I applied to all of the academies. Now, to give you a little Alaskan history, I got a nomination to West Point by Don Young. By Don Young in his freshman term in Congress.
Wow.
Oh, it's even, the connections are even better than that because his daughter lives next door to me now. And so I got a chance to interact with him on a personal basis as well. But that was where this journey began, and then I went to West Point. And at West Point, they have a credo called a creed of duty, honor, country. And an honor code that says a cadet will not lie, cheat, or steal, nor tolerate those that do. And so for 4 years, that was kind of what was becoming part of me. Actually, I think it was already part of me. It was just that reinforced it. And so that's what I set out to do for one of the first chapters of my life. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't say at this point also that I had a partner in crime. Yeah, that's her over there. And the story on that is I chased her till she caught me. We have been together how long now?
50 years.
50 years, wow. We've been married only 43 years, but that's because West Point has this thing, you can't get married while you're there. So I had to wait till graduation day. So that started my service to country in the Army as an artilleryman. It's too big to fit in a tank. I didn't want to have 300 pounds on my back walking through the woods. It just didn't appeal to me. But with artillery, it was also nice because I've kind of got an engineering mind. And I was able to use my math skills in that. Went through an entire service to my country. Actually did 2 tours up here in Alaska. Another little story is that back when I was a cadet, they send you out for what they call third lieutenant time. Well, I spent my third lieutenant time on top of that mountain next to the star, when that was still an active Nike Hercules battery. Yeah, so a long time ago. Okay, so I have a question for you. What is the thing that just really bothers everybody right now today? I mean, just what's your moment?
Drivers.
Huh?
True drivers.
True drivers. Okay. Headlights.
Yeah, headlights. Bright.
How about politics? Does that get everybody? Okay. So we're gonna.
We don't talk about that.
Let's just. Yeah. Wait a minute. We said politics, so we better put a little more in. So that's just something that affects us and our spirit and everything else. Okay. So one of the things that I have learned is that we need to put ourselves in the proper space. So help me out with this. We're going to do a little breath work. And then I'm going to teach you a Hawaiian prayer that I was taught by Kahuna Harry Uhani Jim. Okay, so the breath work is very simple. It's a deep breath in through your nose and a ha breath out through your mouth. So it goes. So let's do that 3 times together. And now here's the Hawaiian prayer. Help! I kid you not, I got it on video. I can show it to you if you want. But that's it. He says, and his thought is that we always need to go and ask Spirit for help when we need it. When we need guidance, ask. Okay. So there's a bunch of quotes and stuff there that I got that I might get into a little bit later. So, okay, I started off my service, and I got through a full career in service, retired up here, actually got an early retirement, but they said, hey, You want to get out and we'll give you a full retirement. The only thing you're going to miss is 3 years of the 3 years in the calculation for what the retired pay is going to be. Yeah, great. Sounds good. So now I kind of work into my next phase. And at that point, I was transitioning. And I had been in an organization that had a purpose, had a direction, had this brotherhood and sisterhood of where we were going and what we were doing. And when I retired, I lost that. It was like, what do I do now? Well, at that same time that I was making that transition, my daughter had just recently graduated from high school, and she had some friends over at the house, and she was packing up she came home for Christmas the first year, and she was packing up to go home, or go back to school, and she had some of her friends over. And one of her girls, and she couldn't pack a bag to save her butt. Today, she's been a sailor on boats, and she can pack a duffel bag in 5 minutes, and it's good for 2 months. But this girlfriend of hers was sitting there, and I went in just to say, hey, it's time. We've got a couple hours before we got to be at the airport. How you guys doing? Oh, great, yeah. And girlfriend pops up and says, Mr. Patterson, we're working on this robotics project, and we need some help. Now, I just retired, and I was kind of pushing back on a lot of things, and my daughter goes, Dad, but, Dad. So I'm standing in a hallway, and I turn and I look down, and my partner in crime is there, and I go, Dear, they want me to help. You know where that goes. I'm not doing this without your permission. Yeah, go ahead. You need something to do anyway. And I did. And this young lady was a member of the very first robotics team in the state of Alaska. That was 24 years ago. And I said, okay, when's the next meeting? Tomorrow. Okay.
Shortly.
And I became the team resource coordinator because they were working on their project building this robot. And they needed stuff. And so I was the procurer of stuff. But we got involved in this, and then we went to the competition in San Jose, California, and received an award. It was the Snowball's Chance in San Jose Award. Recognition for an outstanding rookie team. They like to have fun with how they make those awards. And then we got an opportunity. NASA called up, because we were sponsored by NASA for that first tournament. And NASA called up, and there's a backstory on that one too, and said, what's it going to take to get you to the championship in Orlando, Florida? Because at that time it was at Epcot Center. My immediate response was, lots of money. The next day I got a call back, said, okay, we'll pay half. Half of everything. Half the registration fee, half the car rental, half the hotel, half everything. Being a resource coordinator, I figured out how to get the other half. And we ended up in Orlando. And there was a very pivotal point at that competition in Orlando. The captain of the winning team out of Los Angeles was a member of a team that was one of those last-ditch effort, this is your last chance kind of schools. And they had formed this robotics team there. And he was interviewed on ABC Evening News, and he said something very, very poignant. He said, until I got involved in this program, no other adult in my life had ever taken the time to show me what I could do. And that just struck me. So I said, yeah, I'll be that adult. And I kid you not, on the plane, coming back, I wrote out the plan for the formation of a nonprofit organization to support robotics throughout the state of Alaska. Now that got passed off the Juneau Economic Development Council at some point in time, but it still goes strong today, and we continue to influence students across the state of Alaska. The beauty in that is because we bring our presence to these young students, the joy in my life is that I get the opportunity to be there when this 11-year-old student who's working feverishly to get something gets it and is successful, and they go, wow, I can do this.
Wow.
Yeah.
What happens to their bowl of light when that happens?
Oh, it just lights up. Well, speaking of that, let's see. What else is there? Who likes to do taxes? Just saying. So that's where I started my journey on first. Huh? Just a random thing out there in the middle of nowhere, you know, just gotta keep track of it. Legos are involved. Legos are involved. So that's kind of how I got into this first robotics. Now in 2006, I was asked to be the volunteer coordinator for the World Championship for the Lego competition in Atlanta, Georgia. Atlanta, Georgia, at the Georgia Dome and the Atlanta World Congress Center. Pretty big campus. And I had to wrangle 165 volunteers from around the world. And they had never seen me before. And they're all over the place on this campus. And I've got to make sure they're fed, watered, and taken care of, and they're in the right place, right time. Any questions they got, I'm the shell answer man. And so I thought to myself, what can I do that's going to make it easy for them to identify me in a crowd? Because this is a crowd of about 10,000 of my closest geek friends. And in that crowd, there's a lot of big guys. And there's a lot of big guys with long hair. Big guy and long hair, nah, that's not gonna cut it. I wore the kilt because I was the only big guy with long hair in a kilt at that campus that day. And my in-brief to them was, it's very simple. If you need something, find me. If you need to find me, ask anybody.
Where's the guy in the kilt?
And I said 9 times out of 10, they'll go 5 minutes to go ahead and that way. So it was very successful because I was able to be easily identified. Well, as a result of that, this has become a tradition with robotics. And just for the record, yes, I do toss logs for fun. So I actually have participated in the Highland Games, so this is a legitimate thing. And for those, this is the West Point Regimental tartan, and I actually had to get special permission from the Academy to have this made. Because it's normally reserved for the Pipe and Drum Corps at the Academy. But I told them I'm tossing logs, and they said, okay, fine, you need a kilt. So in a kilt, there are, have you all heard the phrase, the whole 9 yards?
Okay, yeah.
One of the variations of how that came about was 9 yards is the standard measure of cloth to make a kilt. This is a first down plus 2. That's 12 yards. But this, after that event in Atlanta, became a standard. And what it became is it became the thing that I wore to identify myself as the person in charge of an event that I was doing. And that carried over to my ventures with the food bank. Again, This one, colluding with friends of hers, said, hey, you want to go volunteer for this over there because Eileen could use your help. And that was the first year that they had started the food Thanksgiving blessing distribution. And the site that this other friend of my wife was at was up in Mountain View, and they're the busiest site in the city. And so the program is, does anybody know what Thanksgiving blessing is? Okay. It's a program with the food bank in cooperation and coordination with the religious communities around the city to establish sites to distribute the makings for a Thanksgiving meal to families in need in those communities. Annually, the food bank distributes enough food in the Thanksgiving blessing on the Monday before Thanksgiving to feed, I think last year it was like 8,500 families across the city. I run the site on the east side at St. Patrick's, and I've been doing that now for 16 years. And we usually service, this year we served 1,402 families.
Wow.
Okay? So to give you a perspective, and one of the other things that I measure success in is how many tons I have moved. So my projects are all measured in tonnages. For that project, that's 25 tons of groceries distributed out the door in 5 hours. Yeah. Too many years of bad Army training in logistics and supply. You know how to get stuff to move. But the community service and everything else, this became my moniker for community service when I was the guy in charge, because everybody could identify who I was and see me out there and see my presence in the community. The thing that is so beautiful, you know, I told you about the kids and watching that aha moment with them. The thing that is so wonderful about the Thanksgiving blessing is that there is so much grace and gratitude that is shared during that distribution, because the people that are providing are saying, here, please, let us help. And the people that are receiving are in so much gratitude for that gift that they are receiving. So, I mean, there is just so much positive energy that is flowing through that. So that's one of the other things that I have done as a volunteer. I volunteer for FIRST, I volunteer for the food bank, and the latest venture in the last several years is with the Whirling Rainbow Foundation down in Homer, and they found out that I can lift heavy things and I can move a lot of dirt. So they have engaged me in a variety of different tasks down there to help them expand their purpose, their vision of what they're trying to do for the foundation. And Dawn and I shared some time this last summer. I was up on top of the scaffolding and we were oiling the house because it needed to be oiled. So, okay. What do you think about how well the city has been plowing our roads?
Wonderful.
Yeah, there you
Huh?
go.
They're doing better. They just need to improve.
More?
They were overwhelmed.
Okay. Yeah, they were a little bit. But that has kind of been my journey of service here. Let me see what else I got in my notes. Okay. So, somewhere along the line, I realized that my purpose in life, the higher purpose, the thing that I have to learn, is I have to learn more and more about the spiritual aspect of who I am and what that means in the quantum realm. And one of the things that I've come to realize is energy is energy. It transitions, it takes different forms, but it doesn't go away. And you can do one of two things. You can be the light side of energy and provide a positive impact, or you can be on the dark side of energy and be focused on power and control. And it's our choice, because each and every one of us is sovereign individuals. And as sovereign individuals, we get to make that choice. In my case, I said, hey, we're going to do this. We're going to do the positive side of this and give. And what I have found so much over time is a couple of aspects of it. The first is if I give this, what I get back is this. And the other thing is, over all the years that I've been doing all of those different service projects, I never worried about how it was going to happen. Because the one thing that I absolutely believe in is if your focus is pure, your purpose is good, the resources you need will be there when you need them. And every year for the food bank distribution, I always had enough food. Every year for the Lego competitions, I always got enough volunteers right at the end. I always had enough place, everything just fell in place right at the end, as long as I believed in what I was doing. And that has helped me tremendously throughout the course of my life.
I think that's called perfect harmony.
Absolutely. So the reason you see this today is because it's one of the few times you will ever see Stripes and Plaids work. The other reason for that is that this next Saturday, I'll be out at Colony High School, if any of you want to venture out there, and in the afternoon, well, it's an all-day event. It's the first tech challenge. It's a high school level robotics program. And in the afternoon is when we have the competition matches. I'm the head referee for that one. So I get to play rule enforcer. Okay. So one other random question here. Let me see. What's a good one? What's a good one? What's a good one? Dear, help me out here. What's something that really grinds your gears?
Random questions, apparently.
Wait a minute. I think I've got the answer to this one. Me on a routine basis. Actually, no. I mean, there are those things that do occur. But, we're having too much fun with life right now, let me tell you. And so one other final thing here, and just so everybody hears the benefit. What was the question you asked me earlier, Richard?
Oh, the most obvious question that everybody asks a Scotsman, what's worn under a kilt? And the answer is nothing.
No, that's not true. That is not true. Every true Scotsman will tell you, yes, there is something under my kilt. Shoes and socks. So if you've noticed throughout the discussion, we started this with a bowl of light. And if you looked at it, that's your bowl of light. That's your spirit. Each of us has that. We're given that when we come into this world. But as you can see, with some of the random things we were talking about through the course of this talk, our bowl of light has filled up. When I first put it out there, could you actually see the light in the bowl?
Yeah, I did.
Do you see the light in the bowl right now?
No.
Ah. So we've allowed the things in our life to affect us, to dim the light in our bowl. So one of the things in the book, The Bowl of Light, is Holly McCua talks about this, and he has the solution. You know what you do when you look at your bowl and you realize it's full of stones or Legos or whatever it is? Exactly right. And when you empty it and you realize that that's what's happened to you to cover up the light that you have in you, then you have a ability to go back and hit the reset button and start your true spiritual journey with that realization. And the biggest thing that I have learned, one of the biggest things I've learned, is that there is only one thing that I can truly control in my life. And that is how I react to the world around me. And I can choose to be reactive and get angry. And you don't want to see me Hulk out because I have too many years of bad Army training. It gets ugly. But, yeah. Too many years, yeah. But I can choose to do that, or I can choose not to let it affect me. And if I choose not to be reactive to the world outside of me, guess what? I don't put anything in my bowl of light. I maintain my spirit, and I can continue to move forward. So here's I gave you those Legos up front, and I noticed that with very few exceptions, not a lot of folks who have played with their Legos. Yeah, we got an interesting creation. It looks like you took 2 sets and combined them.
That wasn't allowed.
They keep manifesting something.
I do have more. As a matter of fact, just to put things in a numerical perspective, and we'll get to some other numbers here in just a second. The field sets that they use for the Lego competition, the competition's on a 4x8 piece of plywood with some 2x4 borders, and there's a bunch of Lego constructs on there. They send out a field kit every year, and you have to build this thing, and they hit something, and it pops open or does something, or releases something, different things every year. Each one of those field kits has about 2,000 pieces, just for rough math. We order 20 of those kits a year. Let's see, 20 times 2,000 is what, 40,000? 40,000? 40,000.
How many tons is that?
Fortunately, the Legos are light, but you take 40,000 and multiply that by the fact that I've been doing this for 23 years. I got a really great Lego collection, so if anybody needs any Legos, call me.
Have you ever taken the barefoot Lego challenge?
No. Let me put it to you this way, not willingly. When I'm building field sets at the house, sometimes I do it inadvertently. So the reason I gave you those blocks up front is I want you to take a look at those real quick. And if you notice, in each of the 6 block configurations, there is one block that has an S on it.
I got it, yeah.
That S is on that block because that block represents what you can do for service. And I want to see if anybody's got the answer to this question. You have 6 bricks. How many unique and distinct combinations of those 6 bricks do you think there are?
14,441.
How many?
14,441.
Nope.
636.
Nope.
No.
Not quite infinite.
One
Who
or
else?
One or two.
Probably half a dozen or so.
Probably half a dozen or so. So, there are
Factorial, right?
915,103,765 different unique combinations of those 6 blocks that you have in your hand. So the thing I want you to think about today as we leave, and hopefully you've had some time on my journey, had some fun on my journey, is that block of service will fit into your unique sovereignty as an individual. The question is, how is that going to fit in, and where are you going to put it? But that is up to you entirely. Me, I'm just gonna continue to play with Legos and watch kids with robots, pass out food, and have a good time. Does anybody have any questions? Yes, Dawn?
Yeah, so it's very obvious that your language of love is acts of service, right? Like, what helps Dave for someone that's an act of service? Is it service back to you? Is it, words of praise? Is it, yeah, what
What do you get out of it?
What do you get out of it? And what makes you feel amazing? Like acts of service back?
What makes me feel good about what I do is like I said earlier with the Lego kids, I get to see when that light comes on.
So you're
That
how
moment
you
in
receive.
time when that young person says, I can do this if I just think about it and work on it hard. And not a lot of kids today have that confidence. And so the gift is,
So the acknowledgement of the act of service that you did rewards you
Yeah.
by the
Expanded.
affirmation that, wow, that really was beautiful.
so, yeah, exactly. And let me share a story with that. Matter of fact, the young lady that asked me to get involved, she went on to get her bachelor's, master's, and doctorates in geophysics. She is currently a professor at Colgate University.
Wow.
And this summer, being that she was a kid from Alaska, she assembled a team of researchers to come up here to go out and, putts. The last volcano it begins with an A and I can't remember. Huh?
Augustine?
Augustine, yes.
Augustine.
For some reason, my mind was going, that neuron didn't fire. Augustine. So she had a team of researchers go out to Augustine this summer, and she was leading that team. That is my reward.
Yeah.
To know that I had that influence. Last night at the end of the competition, one of the volunteers came up to me and said, Dave, you are big. And you've been such a positive influence that it has changed my life. So when I hear those things and see those things and experience those things, and like a Thanksgiving blessing, the gratitude that comes back, that's my reward. To know that I've done something that makes life better for everybody else. Yeah.
Well, it's not even the doing, it's the being. You are in the being that's receiving and giving. You're not doing it as a back and forth. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
That's what I'm hearing. It is
Yeah.
your being.
Yeah. It is my purpose in life.
Yes.
Well, don't you think that, don't you think that when you do service, I know that I've met some of the most amazing people that I know by doing service. And that mushrooms, and it just has an exponential effect where you can do so much more good by just showing up
Yep.
and meeting people.
I wasn't gonna go there. I wasn't gonna go there.
Years ago, I made an observation in my own life that you hit the peg word, reactive. I saw my life jumping around, reactive. And I said, why can't I just reverse that and be proactive versus reactive? And whenever I'm living in that proactiveness, I'm not doing the reactive and ending up with massive amounts of resentment and anger and negativity, because none of that reactive crap is going to land me in a decent spot.
And I think Gilbert had something.
Gilbert, you had
Oh, yeah. So it was great service. I got here a little late, and I saw you filling up the bowl of all this stuff that we all react to, like however we react to it. I think, wow, man, that guy's really piling up with shit. But what can I do? And I went into, what can I do? Here and now, you know,
Sometimes it goes in our heart, dude.
went in there and put this big violet flame of transmutation in that bowl. And when you emptied the bowl, I saw the white light, and I gotta thank him for that, man. You know, that I had to go through that purple ray, and by then you showed me the white light and how you know, we're all referees of the whiteness and the blackness in our lives.
Can I get an amen?
Representative of refereeing, what we all go through all the time.
Amen. Thank you, Gil. Let's give Dave a big hand, guys.